Welcome back to the 365 Driven podcast. Today, I've got a good friend that's going to hang out with us for the next hour, and he is a marketing, really a social media content and marketing expert. And I've got the opportunity to follow his career for several years now, and starting back. And this guy started out in Alaska, and he ended up in Las Vegas, and he's really heavily influential in the automotive marketing scene, especially the performance aftermarket. I get to see all the highlights from all the shows and all the conventions that he attends that I used to have a lot more time to attend, but I enjoy those things. And he's always posting some funny memes and car content and getting a lot of views. And I've seen this guy grow his following to over 100,000 on his personal Facebook page. And he's also achieved over 200,000 followers on Instagram. So he must be doing something right. Welcome to the show, Stuart Webb.
Howdy, Tony. Good. So good to be on here, and thank you for that intro. Bless you for scrolling through those memes that I post all the time.
The memes are working, man. There's something to those, and some of my highest viewed and highest reach content has always been the memes because people just like to laugh.
It's that relatability, and that's something you always talk about. Like, how do you build that trust? And I feel like everyone needs to laugh. And once in a while, I think I post too many memes sometimes. So, but
the memes don't monetize, but they set you up for the next things that do monetize, right?
I'm gonna keep that in mind. I'm gonna use that next time someone asks me, "Why are you posting so much?" It's setting me up for the next opportunity.
Yeah, we got to keep the algorithm fed, and we got to keep it happy. And then when you do have the ask, which is rare in both of our situations, people respond to those because we have the traffic.
Yes, sir. 100%.
I want to get into your interesting backstory. I was looking on your LinkedIn this morning, and I noticed that you've got your earliest career still on there. And one of them was interesting. You were an overnight stalker at Costco back in Alaska. And I know that you had this long journey to get to where you're at, and you pursued a different industry. And what was that like? Did you believe that you were going to end up in the automotive marketing industry?
It's a long story short. The Costco, it's a career. I feel like there's so many good people that work at
Costco. Good benefits, right?
Really good benefits. Is like this union system where they hire internally for other jobs. And I honestly thought I was going to be there, I don't know, forever, but just for a while. And when I got the opportunity to work there, it was really cool. The manager of the store, the general manager, when I got hired on, I'll never forget, because I saw him and I'm like, holy crap, you're a general manager. Like, it's such an honor to meet you, sir. Like, and he's just looking at me, and then he got really quiet. He's like, we all put our pants on the same way, man. You work as hard as I do, and I know opportunities will open for you. I'll never forget that. And he was literally my first day at Costco, and I'm glad for that opportunity because that was one of my main jobs, and it gave me so much. It gave me the mentality that, hey, I can work as a team, I can work individually, but it also made me proud because, when you walk in Costco, you see the beautiful stocked aisles. Yep. I don't do that. And to me, that was like, I have a YouTube video. I actually went to my old Costco in Alaska. I'm like, I stock these eggs. Look at this milk. And again, if you focus on the little things, and I don't say that's little, that's still a big, it's still a job. You can handle other opportunities, which now I have from Ford and all these other people, but it started there where I'm like, I was so proud that I was like, man, I stacked all these eggs. Look how perfectly aligned they are.
So you had the right level of OCD to make sure everything was lined up, all the labels were faced.
Exactly.
Yeah. I actually notice that when I go to grocery stores, because I have that same level of detailed OCD sometimes. If I'm walking down the aisles and the labels are not rotated towards the aisle, that kind of bothers me sometimes.
Where you're just like, let me move this one.
Yeah. Why didn't the stocker know that you're supposed to face the labels? And you see that also in those the energy drink and water bottle, the refrigerators at the checkout, like all those labels should be faced. Like that's pretty lazy if they don't face the labels.
And that goes to a lot of things that you say, but again, if you can't handle the little things, which is how I was raised growing up, what makes you think you can handle multi-million-dollar accounts? What makes you think you can handle, whatever things happen your way? And I think and I know that's why a lot of leadership classes I take now, they start with those little menial tasks where it's just like, okay, why am I doing this? But now I understand. So it was cool working there for that.
So what made you finally decide to jump into doing some social media and pursuing the automotive performance industry?
The cars was an escape in Alaska, where you go to your car show, you build your truck up, you're out there, and the car scene is actually pretty big. In a couple cars in Alaska, I wouldn't say like SoCal big, but it was always that escape to get out and build your car and show it off at the local car meet, and that's what I did. And to me, I've built so many good friendships and relationships that way. And life happened. There was a lot of different things where I knew I could do something more in the auto space. And I heard this thing called the SEMA show. And I was like, wow, okay, that's it. That's the goal. If I can get to SEMA, then my doors will open. I just thought like that. And I thought SEMA was the ultimate show. SEMA was the ultimate event. And I worked 3 jobs to build up an F-150 in Alaska, and then drove it down to Las Vegas for the SEMA show. Had no clue what I was doing. This was a 6,400-mile trip. When I drove down, I had my buddy who helped build the truck. He was with me for that. Again, I had no clue what I was doing. I was just like, let's just hop in and go. And he said the same thing to me too. And he's like, I was like, what about an extra tire or something? He's like, you know what, man, when things happen, we'll figure it out on the light way. We got to go. And we drove down in 4 days.
Oh, wow.
And that's kind of what led to so many doors opening. We made it. And I was in SEMA 2018. And then I drove back up shortly after. And I drove back down when I got a job here in Las Vegas working social media. But again, that was never the end goal. I could see potential there, but it was never like, let me become an influencer. Let me become someone in the auto space that will run other social media channels. I just wanted to help everyone for the better. And I remember, I'll use a company, for example, that my first sponsor, Edge Products. I remember being so cool when I got my Edge tuner, and I represented them so well. I had customers reach out, ask if I work for them. And I'm like, no, I really enjoy the product. So I had that mindset with every single brand part, Toyo tires, every part that was on the truck. And I think that's another reason why I opened those doors after that SEMA event, where people are like, wow, he takes ownership of what he's doing. And that's what led more to those opportunities and things that I do now.
There's an important lesson there. Most people may have heard what you just talked about, the story, and they may have missed that. So you looked for the target rich environment, the opportunity where things exist. Many people are really stuck in their ways, and they're like, oh, I can't leave my hometown, and or they're wanting to start a business and there's not enough customers in the area. And it's like they have all these geographical excuses that they hold on to. The smart people that are driven, that want to take chances, that want to do something, we figure out where the target rich environment is. And I agree with SEMA. Well, the first time I went to SEMA, it was kind of like going to Disney World for a car guy, because you could see all the stuff and in one place, and plus Vegas with all of its noise and distraction and things to entertain. So it was very much. I remember walking through the first halls at SEMA the very first time. I've probably been 15 times.
Yeah.
And man, I wore my feet out. That's one lesson, is like you wear comfortable shoes the second time you attend SEMA. The first time you try to like look good, and then like it kills your feet. And you carry too much crap the first time. Maybe have like a little bag you drag around with to capture like all the brochures and the swag and the free things and your camera gear. And you're always running into people. You're like, okay, next time I got to be on a lot lighter. I got to just carry what I'm carrying and wear some comfortable shoes at the minimum. And I remember the first one, just going to every booth and, being excited and seeing things and taking pictures and like meeting the people. And man, that is very exhausting too. And I felt like I only got through about halfway through the show by doing it at that pace. And so you start to learn to prioritize, like I need to go make contacts with that company and this one. And you're kind of start zigzagging around the hall and just kind of capturing glimpses of all the different things.
Couple of years before I brought my truck down in 2018, I worked for one of my other jobs was at an audio shop in Alaska, where I learned how to do a lot of car audio and things like that. And it was a part-time job, but I learned how to work in the auto space. But they got me past the SEMA in 2016. And one thing I recommend to those listening is I went to every single booth that was important to me, and I just shook their hand, and I'm like, I'm Stuart. This is what I do. And they're just looking at me like, who? And I was like, I'm Stuart. This is what I do. And they're just looking at me like, who? And I was like, I'm Stuart. This is what I do. And they're just looking at me like, who? And I was like, I'm Stuart. This is what I do. And they're just looking at me like, who? And And I'm like, I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to shout you out on social. And I think I had like 5,000 followers at the time, but I still posted them up on story. I'm like, look, it's Icon Suspension. Look, it's, this brand, that brand. And I was so proud to show them off. But going back to what you said, talking and networking is one of the biggest things that those shows and those events are for. And I just went to literally every single booth and stuck my hand out and said, hello, I'm so-and-so. I'm here to hopefully work with you guys one day. So,
that's important. I wouldn't even try to take any credit off of that, because it is important to go make your face known and your name known to the people, especially the decision makers at these companies. I mean, at the peak of LS1 Tech, I had over 150 advertisers. And I always made a point, if they were going to go to these conventions, whether it was PRI or SEMA, I was going to go meet them in person, because of course I want them to know who they're stroking a check to every quarter, and, build a relationship with them and some rapport. And that way, if there's ever a situation when they have to lose some marketing dollars, they're going to think about who the people they are actually connected with. And they may keep you on and keep marketing with your company while they drop other people off. And so it is important to go build those relationships. And I think now in this digital age that it's kind of lost. A lot of times people don't even want to try to meet each other.
And that's so true. I think after 2020, I think drove a lot of people back together again. But it's wild. And you have a lot more experience in this than I do, but I find it fascinating how people still don't meet in person, or they don't think that they need to meet in person. But now that's, I think, more important than ever.
Yeah.
Those
high value.
High value. That's the term for it. But I like to say real relationships. But again, some of my best friends I've met online, and I know them because of that. But again, that face-to-face builds more credibility, I think, than anything else.
Yeah, even when we're building a community, whether that was the automotive forums or even 365 Driven, we hold live events for that reason. And it's something that I learned 20 years ago, that we had to get people off the keyboards, put them in certain areas where they can interact and build some because back then, especially on forums, everybody just knew screen names. We didn't use our real names like social media, right? So you're like, hey, that's Steve 68, Firebird. And we have these, like, we always knew each other by their forum names. And I knew that if I could build this community and have them come out to different events around the country where all the hot spots are, that had the big car scenes, that they would come off their keyboards and the rivals would race each other, talk a little fun smack with each other. But you know what? When they went home, they actually had some connections, and they actually felt like a little bit more comfortable with the people that they're interacting with online. And that made them always come back to the website and hang out, because that's kind of like the virtual bar that they all met each other at. That's
such a good analogy. And it builds that sense of community too, where you're like, oh, remember I did this with you, or this one activity, or we got this one drink together. It's just something like that. And I think you can't replicate that.
No. And then all the people that decided not to go to the events, they're watching everybody having fun and sharing the photos, and they're like, dang it, I'm gonna go to the next one. And the events just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's phenomenal.
So you get into the automotive space. I like the way you did it through SEMA. That's pretty smart. It's, like I said, target rich environment for opportunity. You started to get to know people. You've always been really good at posting photos. So there was sort of a interest with you just kind of creating that kind of coverage, wasn't there?
It was more, I've had good people that helped direct me. And I can say that now confidently, because in the past, I was like, why are they sticking a camera in my face? That's not me. And one thing in a video that you just talked about, one of your last videos, you said, you will have to acquire skill sets and get better at them to be where you want to be. Understand that if you want to be here, you need to know public speaking. You need to know how to be better on camera. And when these people would approach me, I'll never forget, in SEMA, he walked up and he's just like, all right, talk to me about SEMA. Tell me what you think. And I was like,
Ricky Bobby, you were like, what do I do with my hands? Yeah.
It was one of the, it's still on YouTube. And I stopped. It's so embarrassing to see now, but I stopped. And then I said the whole thing. He didn't stop me. He let me do my thing. And he looked at me and he said, you're going to be doing a lot more of these. Be prepared, understand, and keep growing from this. And that really resonated with me, where, again, that was 9 years ago, 8-9 years ago, and it had to do a lot more and get more on camera. But again, acquiring more of those skill sets and learning which direction to go that I wanted to go to, kept opening those doors. And the auto industry is evolving so fast and so quickly, just like every other industry, where just learning how to do those things and being good on a TikTok dance or a reel or little short videos is what's going to get you farther, especially in the auto space.
It was very difficult for me being an introvert to become comfortable looking at a camera and recording content because when you're talking to a human, even like although we're on an online thing, I can still see your expressions, your reactions. It feels like I'm talking to a person.
Yeah.
When we're just raw creating content, looking at a lens, whether that's our phone or our camera, there is a little bit of a disconnection because we're not seeing the emotional reactions. And it's kind of weird to do that. And honestly, if you're not used to doing it, it also kind of feels stupid. So how did you get over that?
It does. It really does. Cause you're sitting there looking at this thing and there's no feedback. And when you mess up, you're just like, okay, let me go on to the next one. I believe you actually posted, this was a couple of years back where you gave a tip, putting a post-it note. I think it was like right below that was, yes, that was, and I applied that. So I would go live every single day when Instagram created this live feature. And Kale, who I work with at Print now, he's like, you got to do live, you got to do this. This is an opportunity to build a community. That was one thing I did. And then for the recorded videos, I would literally get a post-it note and put it like directly right under the camera. And it would have either reminders or the talking points where I was like, okay, look at the lens, smile, make sure to have some kind of emotion. And then you'll find your groove after that. And you'll, again, that finding your groove, and I don't want to get off on tangent here. It's something that you mentioned recently too, where people try to mimic so many other people, but they don't realize they have so much that they can offer too. And they don't really find it until they actually like put themselves out there and apply those techniques and those basic principles when talking on camera.
Yeah, I would say the first 2 years that I was familiar with you, most of the content you posted at that time was professional bodybuilding and posing and workout kind of clips. And I never really even saw you speak or anything like that. It was just always photos of you working out. So I didn't know what your voice sounded like. I didn't know if you even had a personality. Like, this guy just working out. I mean, he's great shape, exceptional shape. You're competitive at it. And, was there a weird shift going to doing talking head videos from just, having like more of a physique brand?
The flexing in front of cars was again finding my thing where I was about.
That's your trademark. I'm going to do the bicep flex in front of the F-150.
To me, looking back now, it's kind of narcissistic because people ask me to flex. And I'm like, that's kind of weird, but I realized that was my brand. That was my thing. I wanted to stand out, and I had to figure out, hey, this is the way to do. If you see this big Asian dude flexing in front of a truck at SEMA, you're going to stop and be like, who's that guy? And I saw these like internet personalities where I was like, I want to be like that. Or I saw Arnold back in the day, flexing in front of it was like a 70s or 80s. I think it was a Pinto or something like that. I remember thinking like, man, I want to look like that and do that. Yeah. And the shift came especially a couple of years ago when a lot of these manufacturers started to ask for these enthusiasts to talk about their experience. And you can't just walk up and flex for that. You have to be like, how much do I love this Ford vehicle? The Raptor means this to me. And that's when that shift really started to happen. And that's when I really started to learn how to navigate talking about what I loved and talking about why I think this is important to me, whether it's cars or whether it was bodybuilding or fitness, or now First Form that I get to work with as well.
So you got to start talking to different manufacturers. You've worked for some really big brands like Holley and Fox, the shocks, and you were handling their social media strategies and marketing communications and all these fancy terms.
Yep.
What was it like working for those big companies versus being a vice president of a small company of your own?
There's so many things that you want to change, but you can't because you don't have either the say so or because that's the reason, that's the thing they've always done. And
yes,
you can't.
It's corporate.
The corporate life. And when I got to Scott Drake, which gave me the opportunity, that was my first real automotive job where I ran their social media before they got sold to Holley, and I went to them. I had a little more say so because they're smaller, they're still privately owned. And then when they sold to Holly, I realized, okay, this is the way we've always done. This is the things we've always done. So it bothered me where I'm like, this can be so much more efficient if you just do it this way. But no, we had to do it X, Y, and Z. And I learned that there's so many, especially when it comes to social, because it's always evolving, but there's so much of a, I don't want to call them out, but there's a distache. What's the word I'm looking for? Where they're not there for it. They don't know the day to day of social. They don't know those things. That's my responsibility.
They're still thinking of print media.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would get sent like, hey, you should post this, and it's some like reel from 3 months ago that the trend isn't working anymore, but it'll be sent on like, an AOL or Gmail account, just things like that, where I'm like, okay, this was a while back. So I learned everything. I was like, okay, this is the structure that's needed. This is what these companies are lacking, and this is what I would fix. Mm-hmm. So when I left Fox Factory and then went on board with Print Digital, and Kale's like, hey, you should come join. I told everything that we had, the issues I saw, where I'm like, hey, this is what happened. So we were able to create this really cool foundation that I don't think most companies have, where the structure is actually there, because I think that's the biggest thing with social media, is that there's so many ways to do it, but it's hard to build like an actual foundation and structure for that. So having the corporate experience, I would never know that if I wasn't in those day to day and learning how these guys operate. And now that I have that experience, I'm able to take that and just help, again, so many different people. And to me, that means everything to me, because now I get to see larger businesses thrive, or mom and pop shops. And it's the coolest thing ever. So
I would echo exactly what you say. In my experience in marketing, 20 plus years, especially in automotive, I think the larger companies really struggle with connecting with customers. They are too focused on product, and this is our newest gizmo, and here's a cool PR shot of it, and here's the truck that, and they always have like the driving scene of the truck or the car that it's going in, and like there's no humans usually in these videos, and there's no personification of the brand, and they're really missing out on the key aspects of social media, which is connecting with people and identifying with things and being relatable. And so I really struggle with the commercial side of large corporations, especially in automotive, because they just don't connect with the people anymore. They just want to show their logo and then show the parts. And I know that listeners or viewers of this, they're probably hearing some of this, and you should apply this to your industry. You might not be in automotive, but you should apply these thoughts. If you're only showing your logo all the time and you're only showing your product, or you're always pitching something or always selling something, people are going to recognize it immediately as an advertisement. They're going to disregard it. They're going to kind of move on with their day. And so build some way to connect with people on an emotional level.
Love it.
Get them to start to relate to the brand, and you solve challenges that they face every day. And, you can understand the emotions that they're feeling to make a buying decision. And then they'll start to connect with the brand, and they'll become a more, they'll push the buy button.
I want to build off of that. And I love that you said that. And I've taken a lot of those tips from your videos, where I've been able to build that relationship with customers. When I was at Scott Drake and we sold to Holly Performance, I remember I was talking to one of the dealers on the phone, just because they were always interacting with me on social. I'm like, hey, I'm Stu. I love the Mustang builds. I saw the 65 that you guys did. And he's like, so you guys sold to Holly? Oh man, now that they're a bigger company, the same thing happened with Flowmaster, and we just lost that relationship. And I don't know. I said, hey man, I don't know what happened with that relationship there, but just remember that I'm here, and because I really love your builds, I really love the cars. I just love to see that growth there. And no matter what happens, as long as I'm here connecting with you, I will always like your posts, and I will always share as much as I can. And I remember just hearing him sound, I hope he's listening, because I remember he sounded a lot more at ease, where it's like, okay, there's a lot of change happening, but I have this relationship with this person on social media, and they are giving me, they actually like my work, if that makes sense. And I think that people need to hear that, like, hey, you are appreciated, and I see how much you're working. And that alone will build that relationship on social more than anything else.
Even that could also be applied from a leadership perspective.
Yes, sir.
So many people quit their jobs and go on to do different things, not because of the financial reasons. They do because they don't feel appreciated. They don't feel acknowledged. And I get that there's some managers out there that are really hard headed and they say, well, they should be doing a good job. That's what I pay them for. And that is true. But
Yep.
acknowledgement or recognition costs you zero. Like as a business owner, as a manager, as a leader, it costs you zero, but it does so much in value. And it costs you no time, really. Hey, man, you're doing a good job. I just wanted to appreciate you for a moment and keep up the good work. Just a phrase like that,
Yeah.
that goes a long way and it keeps people happy.
And I love that. And I think a lot more people, you don't need to do that more often, but some people that would make their day, that would make their week, that would make their year, even on top of whatever you're paying them. And some people just need to hear that. So,
there's an entrepreneurship group that I'm a member of, and a member in there posted that they sent out bonus checks at the end of this year. And they were kind of disappointed because maybe they sent out like 50 checks to the employees and they only heard back from 3 or 4 of them thanking them. And they felt kind of, underappreciated as owners themselves. And there was some good feedback in there. And one of the things that I agreed with when I saw someone reply was that they don't just mail out bonus checks. They hand them out personally and have a little bit one-on-one time and express their acknowledgement and gratitude for them. And they go, hey, we would like to reward you with this. And the people that were doing that got 100% feedback, because I would even imagine although the money is good to have, the bonus is good, that acknowledgement also had value. And that's what the people were really wanting.
That's so good. And that goes back to the social part, or building relationships in person, where it's a read the room kind of thing sometimes, where you just have to understand how someone operates. And sometimes maybe they do better not being in person, but more than likely, a lot of people just want to meet in person for you to shake their hand, say, hey, you're killing it. You're doing a great job.
So let's shift into what strategies you've used to help grow your audience, because hundreds of thousands of followers on your organic content, you're not running ads to grow those. So what is it that you've seen? I understand you study a lot of different social media from different clients and different individuals, and even myself. But what are the kind of things you started to realize that are working for you?
So I'll go back into my upbringing. My dad was military, so very strict, very focused, and he taught me how to read people and how to understand how people think, and also history. What's happened in history. Social is the same way. It's always kind of, if you understand patterns and recognize those, it happens again, whether it's in the clothing industry or every other industry. It's just patterns, and it happens again and again. History repeats itself. It always does. I also went to school for criminal justice, so I was able to learn a lot of psychology behind how people think. And again, I'm not posting a meme because let me read into this and see how people are thinking, but there is a science behind it, because it's that relationship again. Once you understand how people are consuming your content, then it's like, okay, I'll build a certain piece of content just to see how this reaction would be. Not to gauge a clickbaity thing, but just be like, okay, you like this specific, like me talking about the Cybertruck. Okay, cool. I'm going to make another Cybertruck video.
Or trolling it. You're pretty good at giving your opinions and funny stuff. So.
In a positive light. And that's the biggest thing I've done as far as growing that. And again, my opinion doesn't really matter. It's everyone else's opinion. I think that's the biggest piece of advice I can give to people listening, watching, is I always ask them, what do you think? And most manufacturers that I work with in the auto industry, and this applies to anything else, really want to hear as well too, even if it's negative. When the Mach-E came out, Ford flew me out for the Mach-E Rally, which is their off-road version. They legitimately want to know, what do people think about it? And people definitely gave their opinion, but as much as possible on every post, I was like, what do you guys think? Is this good? Is this bad? And it opens the door to so much more conversations. And I truly believe that was the number one thing where that helped me to push past that mark of why am I not growing my pages, to holy crap, now I can't keep up with all these comments. So
that's a key. See, I think of this as well. Our personal platforms, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever platform you choose to use,
sure.
That's our digital stage. so to speak, our stage. Too many people want to broadcast from their stage to the audience, and it's a one-way conversation. We kind of talked about this before we got on the interview. And they do the post and ghost. They'll post to something and then they disappear and they don't interact, or they don't acknowledge people that interact with them. They don't ever ask the audience for their opinions, like you just mentioned. They don't ask for that. They don't ask for feedback. They don't ask for debates. They're just kind of, like old days of tweeting, right? And so they wonder why they don't grow an audience. They wonder why they don't grow a following. It's
Yeah.
because they're not interacting with people. And so my goal, whether that was forums or the social media, whatever platforms I'm using, I always invite people onto my digital stage. I want them to be on that stage with me. And if we grow an audience, we also grow leverage and we also grow reach. And so if you invite people on the stage and they're savvy and they're intelligent enough to figure this out, the more they interact with your posts, especially in a meaningful way, and share their opinions and be willing to debate respectfully, your audience, the one that you created, the one I created, is going to become their audience if they see their comments and interactions. And so you can grow a pretty substantial following just by interacting meaningfully, not just stupid stuff like fist emoji or like, hey, that's cool. Like, it's got to be like nice interactions, and then people will always read those comments, and then you become someone that's on their radar.
An industry veteran told me a rising tide lifts all ships. And
there you go.
Always resonated with me. One thing I did too was when I was at Drake, Scott Drake, I was like, I can't make it to these shows. How do I get content but show it from someone else's stage? And I would reach out and connect with some of my best Mustang friends now. And they're like, I'm at this show. Let's go do a live. And this is a thing on Instagram where it's a feature. You can go live on both accounts. Mm-hmm. And I would clear with my manager and he's like, all right. So we would walk around the show through their eyes. And at the time I was just thinking like, man, I'm getting coverage. I'm talking to my best friend online through, this company I'm working for. But looking back now, it's exactly what you said. It was saying, hey, I have this stage, but you also have one too. Let's hop on together and talk to the world. And I've built some of the best relationships that way. I mean, I was just at Mustang Week and I saw a good friend that I did that with. And it was just the coolest thing. But opening that door, I mean, not every company can do that. And I totally understand, but opening that door in that way and problem solving, figuring out which platform I can invite people onto the stage for, I think would be would be a game changer for so many companies if they just have that mindset. So
yeah, the collaborations are key, and inviting people and having that conversation is key. Those are some good takeaways. And so that's worked out pretty well for you. Branding wise, I still like that you mix in who you are. You still work in the fitness content, you still work in the automotive stuff, you still talk about marketing. It's kind of the three things that you're known for. And I like that you just have this rotating pieces of content that are kind of hitting around on each of those. Is there a strategy behind that?
That's a really good question. I'm glad you noticed that. So once you're known for something, then people are like, oh, they associate you, be like, hey, you're that guy. Or one thing I do is my family I'm part Korean. So my family always pushes me and they say, hey, you should go back to med school. You should become, you definitely become a doctor. So I'll throw that in there just for fun. But
I relate to that, by the way. I'm half Japanese. So yeah, any kind of the Asian mom jokes, like I'm all for that. And like, you should be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, like that. We dishonor you. We dishonor you, family. Yeah.
My mom is the most wonderful woman and scariest woman in my life. So like 4 feet tall, and I'm still scared of her.
That's it.
But that kind of relatability with the post, as I keep posting the different things, whether it's fitness or vehicles or say, hey, this is a marketing tip. We have this thing at Print where whatever our 3 pillars are: educate, inform, and entertain. So when we post, we always try to think, are any of these posts doing that? So if I can do all 3 in one, then I'm winning. So I always try to hit one of those pillars. Am I educating? Am I informing people? Or am I entertaining them? Yeah. And that's when I post my revolving door of content on any platform. I'll think like that. Like, okay, today's a meme post, and the next one will probably be like, hey, this is what I went through. And what's great is the community and camaraderie I've built with the fans and followers I have. I think that's really opened those doors where it's just like they'll accept it and be like, I can post the funniest meme and it's smack talk anything, and then the next one is this really, you know, deep, like, hey, convicted posts, and people will still like engage on it. So again, that there's not really the strategy behind it. It's more like what I feel the need is for my community, and how I can better serve them, if that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, and I would also say that observing your content is something I relate with as well. Is neither of us really does call to actions. You notice that we
Yeah.
educate, we inform, we entertain, but we're really never pitching. So I know some people would look at that and go, well, how do they make any money? How do they generate any leads if they're just never asking for anything? And what's your take on that?
Ugh. I wish I could do more, but deep down, I like how you always you bring up Gary Vee a lot. His Jab Jab Hook book is phenomenal. Changed my
Great
life.
book.
I love that book. I read that early on in my life. But you give, and then you ask. But even then, and that's why I think I've relate to your content and to yourself as much as possible, where you're here to serve. We're here to serve these people, and if that brings in more opportunities and more doors, those people will come, or they'll come to you when it's right for them.
That's right.
And as the community and audience grows, more and more of those people will come. But again, going back to like people throwing their logos and stuff and doing a reel and not showing the face, they're doing this call to action. We're like, buy. They're never saying, hey, I'm here to help you. And doing that, just showing, for an example, I recently had a friend reach out. I've never met them in person. I never talked to them. If they're listening, thank you so much. They'll just reach out and be like, hey, I'm getting back into shape. What do you recommend? That's literally all they ask. And they're like, hey, I was 230 pounds. Now I lost 30 pounds. And what do you recommend? I just see your stuff all the time. I really look up to you and these things. And I think if you give enough, and I know if you give enough, the right people will come. And I think
Always.
do too many call to actions, you're just gonna, it's almost like slamming a door in those people's faces. Yeah. And just you'll be inviting the wrong people in. So that's why I always try to be like, as open the door as much as possible for those people, and eventually the opportunities and the sales will come. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
You know, we talk about the vanity metrics and the followers and things like that. I just wanted to insert an important note related to that. You know, I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and we're talking about, you know, some of these influencers with big followings, but they're not really ethical people and such. And you and I kind of clown on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the things I reminded him is that although someone may have a bigger audience or more followers, you have to put things into context of who those people are, the followers. Like, who are those people? And even if they have hundreds of thousands or a million followers, aren't the right people for you. If those aren't the people you would want to hang out with or work with or serve, then it might as well be zero. Might as well be zero followers, because those people do not matter for your business or what you're building. And so I like that you talk about, we're trying to serve, we're trying to help. It attracts the right audience. And no matter what size your audience is right now, you should be really focused on those are the right people. And I can make that grow by doing more of what I've been doing. But don't get envious and play the comparison game when people have followings, especially if you know that those are not the people I'd want to hang out with anyways.
Another thing to build on that is a recent video you talk about your gut feeling and trusting that 100%. Like if you have a phone call from somebody and you're like, oh man, I can't wait to speak to that person. Those are the people you want. And then you another analogy you said, when you get that phone call and you're like, oh, what do they want? You don't want those people, whether it's in your life or on social. So it's up to you to not weed those people out, but understand like how to present yourself so that way you bring in those right people. And I think those tips that we just gave will really help those people understand like these are the people that I need in my life.
Yeah, I'll add another one that we can relate to. It's the people that respond to your post, and you get the notification. It says so-and-so responded to your post. Do you go, hey, I can't wait to see what they said? Or do you go, oh shit, what now? Like, this person only responds when he wants to argue or do something or be a jerk, you know? And so get rid of those people, man. Do things to just kind of drive them off.
It's funny how we recognize those people.
You get the notification and it's either happy or sad, you know? It's like, oh.
Oh man. By the way, all these years I've always geeked out how you have the time to do that. Like you said, we always find time to make those to work with those people that we like the most. And it always made my day if I posted a deadlift video and then you would comment like, "Hey, keep it up." I was like, "Whoa!"
Hey,
To me,
I
was,
always applaud
it
men
made
who
my
do
day.
not skip leg day. If you do not skip leg day, you get props. Now, let's be real. There's a lot of dudes out there just do a whole bunch of curls. It's almost like they do 7 days a week of curls. Or
Or
the photo's always in the gym mirror and they're curling. Like it's like, bro, do you ever pick up anything with those things you walk on?
dude, your deadlift videos are insane though. Like you out deadlift me, and I'm just like,
That's
what?
old man. That's old man monkey strength. When you're 50, you'll get it too. You'll be old man monkey strength.
that insane core strength though.
So I want to shift to business marketing here. Okay, we talked a lot about personal brand and audience growth. You work with a lot of different small business owners on marketing, and whether that's SEO or website or Google ads, like all of that. Okay, so what is it that you see that is the most common mistakes that they do when they come to you? Like they're coming to you, hey, help me out, Stu. Like, what are the things that you see that they're not doing that they could figure out?
I love that. The number one thing I would say is, I don't want to say they're hopping in too late, but coming to the market and thinking like social media marketing or Google or all that it's an afterthought. And that's not always a bad thing because they're juggling a million other things. They're trying to run this business, whether it's a coffee shop or an auto shop or they're working on cars. Totally get it because they're wearing every single hat. So the last thing they're thinking about is like, oh wait, I have to make a Google ad, or I have to create a Facebook ad so that I actually get people in the door. And we're doing my best to educate and say, hey, this is what you need to do when you start your business. These are the steps you need to take. And it's something that you do very good as well, is applying like, these are the different steps, if that makes sense, when you're starting your business. And again, it's never too late to start, whether it's social media marketing or Google or SEO, build your website. But that should be first, I feel like, in the first steps of building your business.
There's a lot of distractions. If you start to try to
Amen.
interact on every platform, and because I see a lot of people that don't understand where their audience is hanging out. Like let me be more specific. You have an audience, but you also have customers, and they may not be the same, right? Two different groups. So the real question a business owner should be asking is, where are my customers hanging out? Which platform, if any, are they hanging out? Most of it's going to be Google. Let's be real. People Google search for services-based businesses, especially, or localized businesses. But Facebook, generally an older group. People are kind of just chill or hanging out. Maybe they're there. LinkedIn is very corporate and focused on business and business to business type transactions and looking for jobs or things like that. Instagram to me is more visual and hanging out and kind of relaxing, and people don't really want to be sold to over there as much. They just kind of want to just go brain dead and do the doom scroll. TikTok I kind of lump in the same way with Instagram. So when you start to understand these platforms are all different, where are your customers hanging out? And you should only pick really 2 platforms to master. Like initially, like you're talking about getting started, man, don't go jump on X and Facebook and Instagram and you're going to kill yourself doing all that kind of stuff. Just pick the 2 that that your customers are likely to hang out on. And it may not be the place that you got the biggest audience at the time, but it's the right place to be. And just really focus on the strategy of those 2. And once you get those down, then you could start adding the other ones in. And maybe by that time you're cash flowing enough to bring in, someone like yourself that can manage that stuff for them. And so just focus on the main 2. That's my starting point.
That is nail on the head, man. That's probably the best way to put it, because again, that's when they start freaking out. And I do a lot more on the social side when I work with print. Mm-hmm. And people are like, should I X? Should I go to LinkedIn? Should I go to YouTube Shorts? Or what's the difference between YouTube and YouTube Shorts? And it just keeps getting more and more. And I can see the worry on their face,
anxiety.
Like, I have to make 10 pieces of content a day. And again, I
don't even want to do that.
Exactly. And going back to the structure when I left Fox and being with Prince, it's been really cool to see Kale build that structure and that foundation. So I have the people, I have the manpower, I can allocate different things to be like, okay, now I know this client can get 5 pieces of content a week, and we have the allocation, and I can post on every single platform for them. So again, going back to that small business owner, it's going to be okay, but focus on the little the
Yeah.
little pieces first, which is I love that. That's awesome.
What are your opinions, pros and cons on organic content ads or paid traffic?
Paid traffic will bring in that. It won't bring in. It'll bring in eyeballs immediately, but it won't bring in. It might not bring in sales. Depends on what you're doing. That organic will build that solid structure and the foundation for a great community, because you won't go out and say buy this. It's again that call to action. That community and relationship will take years to build. And I'll use the automotive industry for example. When I worked with Fox, we sold the Shelby trucks, and those are $140,000, $200,000 trucks. So to find that market and those specific people, it's going to be very hard, because you can target demographic all you want when you build an ad for a Shelby truck and be like, this is a badass Shelby Baja Raptor. There'll probably be a 40-year-old who's making X amount of money, so I'm going to target them, right? But you might not even be hitting the right people, even if you do the market research and things like that. But if I'm posting organically on social media, it'd be like, look at this awesome Raptor, look what it can do. And then I see like someone who'll comment, and the one picture that they have on their Instagram is like their kids, and the next one will be like a barn looking thing has like 6 cars in it. And I'm like, okay, this guy does something. Then I find out they work in concrete. Then I find out just over a year, because they keep engaging on a post, and they're like, you know what? I want to buy a truck just because you're commenting back and forth. And then you told me how awesome this truck is. Where can I buy these things? I love it. And to them, that's that organic side where they'll build that connection and a relationship with those people, versus trying to pay and be like, and paid ads has their own thing, but sometimes waving a sign directly in front of the person, they're going to look right past you. If
That's
that
good.
makes
Yeah, you're building relationship capital, relationship value by doing that.
sense.
And here's the good news: if you're low on cash, organic is free. It means you're really just creating free content, and frequency and quality do matter. Now, when you get the organic down, this is when experts like yourself will say, "Hey, if you got some organic thing that's getting a lot of attention, like throw some money behind it. Like if you create one piece of content that's kind of going semi-viral, it's getting a lot more views or reach than you're used to.
You get it.
Spend $10 a day on it. Just play with it, and you're going to see it. It's going to just amplify what you already had."
And you're not throwing money away. It's an
Yeah,
investment. I think people don't fully understand that. But like, oh, but it got, only got like 5 million views, or I'm just getting views. What's the point of this? That one person, like I just said, then that one guy looking at the truck would have never seen the content if you've never posted it and never pushed it out there. So again, the audience will be there, but the customers will come once you start really pushing on the organic side, and then do the paid ad side, if that makes sense.
and I would imagine you get the same reactions as I do. As we get these private messages every week that people, they'll send a message, they'll thank you for a piece of content that you kind of created, or hey, I really meant something to me. I did some actions, and we enjoy that. We like acknowledgement too. People that create, we like acknowledgement, and so it's cool and it's really powerful to get those messages. But the funny thing about this is that most of those people that send those private messages or the DMs, they're not really interacting in the content itself. So they're still seeing it, they're still consuming it in their own way, and they're responding the way they like to respond. And so I think if you're out there creating content and your good intentions and you're doing things for the right reasons, don't be so hard on yourself if you don't see a bunch of likes and comments, because there are people still watching you.
And it's always those pieces of content that got like 5 views. Sometimes be
Yeah.
like, I saw this one, it was amazing, and you're like, well,
Changed my life. Like, oh, why didn't you like it? Oh, well, that's why I sent you a message.
yeah, you should like and comment. And I actually have a follower and a good friend. His name's John. Never met him in real life, but he's followed me and supported me since early on. And I was at the big event for the S650 Mustang reveal that Ford invited me to, and he called me afterwards. He calls and texts. He doesn't really engage or comment or anything, but he'll text me and be like, I saw you, man, or he'll give me a call and be like, I saw you out there, dude. You are crushing it. You keep going, and I really hope you keep. And this guy will just cheerlead me on. And to me, that means the world, and it's just the best thing ever. So again, it's that community based and understanding how people operate and where they want to be at, if that makes sense. So
Well, Stuart, I really loved this episode. It was fun. I think we kind of got a mini master class
Yeah.
in building our communities and message and putting yourself out there. We covered a lot of topics, and I know that people are going to want to connect with you or possibly work with print digital. How's the best way for them to find you?
I'm on Facebook, every major platform, but the Excalibur on all the other platforms, but Stuart Webb on Facebook. And so you could send me a DM directly there. And also print digital. I have my emails there as well. Would love to chat and do more with you guys.
All right, guys, you heard it from Stuart Webb himself. And if you got some value from this episode and you think that your friends or your family can benefit from everything you've heard today, please forward this to them, share it with them. That's how these shows grow. We don't run any ads, and we're just trying to get you guys the right information from the right people. So we'll talk to you all on the next episode.
Thanks, guys.